How's it going, everyone? This is Mike, and it's been a while since I've done a video, so I'm trying to get back into the game a little bit. So, how's everyone been? Here in the great unwashed Midwestern United States, we're having a very early summer heat wave. It's been up in the 90s for days, and the humidity is rolling in, and it's been pretty miserable actually. So, I try to live without air conditioning. In fact, I haven't used air conditioning for the last 2 years. I'm trying to stop using it forever. So days like this, when they're about 5 days in a row, it gets pretty trying, but we're surviving. A little of a cool off period is on the way. So anyway, the video I'd like to do today is about books, but it's also a little bit film related, and I would also like to make a little bit of an announcement about a project that I'd like to do that's coming up. So I have two books that I bought that I'd like to show you. One I bought from Barnes& Noble, and the other one I sent away for online. And here's the one I bought from Barnes& Noble just about a week or so ago. Saw this on the shelves, didn't even hesitate about buying it. It wasn't on sale or anything like that. I just knew I had to have it. This is called Into the Dark: The Hidden World of Film Noir, 1941 to 1950. Nice thick book, lots of pictures. This is all about, well, it takes has different categories. Well, I'll tell you how they divide it up here in the titles here. The guy who put the book together is a guy named Mark Vieira, and the foreword is by a guy named Eddie Muller. Of course, he's a very prominent author and expert about film noir. Does a lot of commentary on film noir DVD releases. So a very intelligent guy. So what they do here, they have 5 chapters, and they take it from starting in the year 1941, going all the way up to 1950, just different lists of films. And the first chapter is called Shadowed, covers the years 1941 to 1943. Films like Citizen Kane, which quite frankly I'm not sure I would classify as a film noir, but the definition is a little bit dodgy. Well, that's not the word. Flexible. For a lot of people, they have certain things on the list of film noir and other people don't. So that wouldn't necessarily be on my list. But it's in the book, and it's a classic film, and it certainly has kind of noirish photography and all that sort of thing. So, hey, great. Also has The Maltese Falcon, This Gun for Hire, The Glass Key. And then in chapter 2 is called Cynical, okay? And it covers the years 1944 and 1945. Films like Phantom Lady, Double Indemnity, Laura, To Have and Have Not, Murder My Sweet, Mildred Pierce, The Lost Weekend. Then we go, and several more. Then we go to the chapter 3, which is called Alienated, the years 1946, 1947. This is a very long list of films. Films like Gilda, The Blue Dahlia, The Postman Always Rings Twice, The Big Sleep, Lady in the Lake. Let's see. Possessed, starring Joan Crawford. And the last one on the list is Out of the Past. Then we go to chapter 4, another fairly long list of films. And this chapter is called Obsessed. Okay? And while we're talking about that, here's a great shot of Joan Crawford from I think it's either Possessed or Humoresque. I'm not really sure. She looks great though, doesn't she? So Obsessed covers the years 1948, 1949. Films like The Big Clock, The Lady from Shanghai, Key Largo, Sorry Wrong Number, Force of Evil, Flamingo Road, The Reckless Moment, White Heat, Jimmy Cagney classic. And the last chapter is called Doomed, okay? 1950. Films like Gun Crazy, The File on Thelma Jordan, In a Lonely Place. I'll just read you the whole. This is a very short list. Gun Crazy, The File on Thelma Jordan, DOA, The Damned Don't Cry, In a Lonely Place, The Asphalt Jungle, The Underworld Story, and finally Sunset Boulevard. So it takes you all the way to Sunset Boulevard, which is a pretty good place to end it. And this book is published by TCM, Turner Classic Movies, which you might understand. It's loaded with great pictures. It covers each one of these films, some more than others, but instead of giving you a long article about giving you the plot line and all that sort of thing, it has contemporary reviews from some of the critics. It has quotes from some of the people who were in the films or the directors. and quotes from Hedda Hopper, the great newspaper columnist all those years in the golden age of Hollywood. And it even has occasional quotes from some of the theater owners in different parts of the country talking about how the audiences reacted to the films and whether or not they had big crowds and they made money and all that sort of thing. And some of them are really funny. Here's one this is a very interesting review about one of my favorite films called Phantom Lady. Phantom Lady made at Universal in 1944. I love this movie. That was French Otone in that picture. And a critic named Bosley Crowther from the New York Times wrote, the day after it was released, February 18th, 1944, he wrote, something was bound to happen when a former Alfred Hitchcock protege and a former director of German horror films were teamed on the Universal lot. Something severe and relenting, drenched in creeping morbidity and gloom. And that's something which Miss Joan Harrison and Robert C. Oudmack have evolved is a little gem called Phantom Lady. That's great writing for such a great film. And I marked this page because I wanted to show you this picture. 1947, Out of the Past. Look at that portrait of Robert Mitchum. Isn't that great? Isn't that a great picture of Mitchum? A lot of great pictures of full-page photographs of different people. In fact, at the beginning, when it shows you, here are Alan Ladd and Veronica Lake as they appeared in This Gun for Hire, 1942. And of course, that was a very important film for 1942. And then it goes on for The Glass Key, which was the second film that Veronica Lake made with Alan Ladd. And there she is in The Glass Key. Quintessential Veronica Lake. This is loaded with great pictures, fascinating bits of information. It also has a bibliography, books you can read about film noir, an index of actors and directors. And here's the last picture in the book. Norma Desmond from Sunset Boulevard. Classic performance and classic imagery from Gloria Swanson. So if any of you love film noir, or you're interested in finding out more, or you just like great black and white photographs, some of them are in color, I recommend Into the Dark. Dave Koenig, are you listening? Okay. Great book. All right. Now the next book I'd like to show you is something that I found online from oldies.com, which sells a lot of film-related books, usually on sale. This is a lot of fun. This is American International Pictures, The Golden Years, okay, and by a guy named Gary A. Smith. And on the cover you have a beautiful photograph of actress Sandra Harrison in her quintessential, in fact her only role, I think, in the 1957 low-budget classic Blood of Dracula. And that is her with makeup, not without makeup. So anyway, this is a very cool book. Again, doesn't have quite as many pictures, but what this does, it takes the history of this wonderful studio, which made so many great just exploitation films, science fiction films, horror films, teenage-oriented films, everything from I Was a Teenage Frankenstein through the 60s, where they had the great Roger Corman, Edgar Allan Poe films, the Beach Party films, the biker films like The Wild Angels, and on through the history when the studio actually went out of business. But they started out in 1954 when a lawyer named Samuel Z. Arkoff united with a businessman who was already in the film business, a guy named James H. Nicholson, and they got together. They first met because they were involved in a legal dispute, and after that they decided to meet and have lunch. They became friends, and they decided, what the hell, let's go into business, release low-budget films for the drive-in trade, and make a lot of money, which is exactly what they did. And they started in 1954. They called their company the American Releasing Corporation, and they released a low-budget film called The Fast and the Furious, directed by Roger Corman, starring John Ireland and Dorothy Malone. And from there, they just went on and on. A couple of years later, they changed the name to American International Pictures, and went on to just do so many classics that I know the kind of people who are probably going to be watching my videos, you know exactly the kinds of films that I'm talking about, and what they were able to accomplish with very little money, and to keep making money and release a whole bunch of films every year for a very long time, from having a lot of great success. And most of them were not, you know, brilliantly written and directed and acted classics. Some of them were, but most of them were very, very popular and always made a lot of money. So it's just a lot of fun. Eventually, Arkoff and Nicholson would split up in the early 70s, and James H. Nicholson actually died in 1972, and Arkoff lived until 2001. So they had very long careers, and I haven't read everything in this entire book. I kind of got bogged down somewhere in the mid 60s, and I haven't gotten to the part where these guys start to decide to split up and all that sort of thing. But I'll get to it. I know some of the story, but not a lot of it. But I love reading about little tidbits of information about. They say something about each one of the films. Some of them they just sort of give you the titles and the bare bones, and other ones they go into a little bit more information. And one thing about what Arkoff and Nicholson did in their business, they were very big on publicity. They created their own publicity, therefore generating interest for films and ideas that they had not even made yet. They had a title, they had a concept before they actually had a film in the can. And then when they generated interest and a little bit of money, they started making the film. And it always paid off. So just a lot of fun. If you want to hear about some of the low-budget classics from the Golden Age, this might be something you want to see. Okay, now these other books I want to show you, this is a set of mystery stories, 10 mystery books, okay, that I've had sitting on my shelves in my house for decades. These I think were put out in the 1960s, and I actually inherited this collection of books from my mother. She went to a flea market way back in the early 70s and kept these for a while. Then she gave them to me, and I actually had just sort of put them away someplace, and they were gathering dust. And I recently got them out again, and I thought, why don't I read these wonderful books? I haven't read any of these stories, but here's what they have. The first one is The Maltese Falcon by Dashiell Hammett. Okay, this is the one I'm reading now. And here is a book called The Daughter of Time by Josephine Tey, something I've never heard of. Assignment in Brittany by Helen McInnes. And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. Here's the Nine Tailors by Dorothy L. Sayers. I've heard that title. I know nothing about it. Here's by Rex Stout. This is called The Doorbell Rang. Rex Stout, great writer of mysteries. Graham Greene, The Confidential Agent, which was made into a film starring Charles Boyer and Lauren Bacall. Here's a classic for you, The Big Sleep by Raymond Chandler. Okay? And here we have by Eric Ambler, this is Journey into Fear. That's been made into a film. And finally, here's a very thin little book by John Buchan. It's called The 39 Steps. Okay, certainly that's been made into a classic film. So my goal here, now that I've taken these off the shelves and I've dusted them off, I'm planning to start reading them. And I've already started with The Maltese Falcon. I'm right in the middle of it. I'm enjoying it thoroughly, but I'm a very slow reader. So my plan is to do a video where I talk about the book and how it was made into 3 different film versions. Okay, a lot of you may not know that the classic version of The Maltese Falcon, which was released in 1941, starring Bogart and Mary Astor, Peter Lorre, directed by John Huston, that was actually the 3rd version that was made from this book, and all of them were made at Warner Brothers Studios. So and I have all of those films. They're on the box set of The Maltese Falcon. So I've seen them all. I'm going to watch them all again and do a little video and talk about the differences in each one of the films and how they relate to the book. So that's my little plan, and that's my video for tonight. So anybody want to talk about these books or anything else, or just say hello, make a comment. Take care.